to call to order our Zoom meeting again for the month of July. And with that, Peggy, will you do a roll call vote for attendance, please?
Yep. Rob Aliasso.
Here.
Dave Converse.
Here.
Greg Gardner.
Here.
John Jennings. I don't think he joined yet.
John's not coming.
Bill's not on. Lisa Luhulier.
Here.
Christine Powers.
Here.
Ed Waldroff.
Here.
And Paul Warnick.
Here.
Then we have Don Alexander, Dave Zembeck, Lyle Eaton, myself, Peggy Sampson, Marshall Weir, Jay Madison. I see Ed Valentine, Joe Russell, Craig Fox, Katie Benoit, and I think that's everyone.
Thanks, Peggy. With that, I'd open the floor. Anyone wants to address the board at this time? Okay, we have minutes from our last meeting. We received those. Is there any additions and/or corrections? Can I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved. This
Rob.
is Chris.
I'll second. Rob Aliasso.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Treasurer's report, Rob?
Thank you. Page 7 of your packet. Excuse me. We're just a little bit ahead on a linear basis on our budget. This one tends to balance itself out and be close to zero at the end of the year anyway. We're achieving about $95,000 a month. Actual break even's $90,000 a month on the revenue side. On the expense side, break even would be $89,000 a month. We're achieving about $83,000 a month. So we're spending a little less, we're making a little more. I guess that's all a good thing. The bottom is $109,000 net income over expenditure surplus. Page 8 and 9 and 10 of your packets are blow-ups of the major programs. Nothing really significant. The ag program is close to a linear basis of spending its complete budget. Which one says manufacturing business hasn't spent that much. I'm guessing some things have been delayed because of COVID. Then the marketing is just a little bit below on a linear basis of spending its budget. I'm sure by the end of the year we'll be very close to spending the allotted funds for these great programs. Page 11 of your packet is the balance sheet. Very little change from last month, so we're down about $10,000 from last month on quick assets. We're down about $11,000 on receivables. Total assets are down about $11,000 entirely. Total current assets. Total assets are down about $13,000. Total liabilities down about $24,000, and total capital is up $11,000. Page 12 of your packet is just a snapshot of all the major loan programs. The majority of them are on moratoriums or curtailed some payments for some period of time, 30, 60, or interest only, and then but all are current otherwise. Correct, Lyle?
That's correct,
Okay.
Rob.
All right. So that's the board report from the treasurer. I would make a motion to accept this report as presented.
I'll second that.
On the treasurer's report, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report, motion carries. Thank you. Let's go right to our finance committee and let's consider our proposed budget for next year.
Hey, Dave, John sent me an email. He asked if I could go through this. If you'd prefer to do it, that's fine with me.
No, you can
Okay.
go right ahead.
John was unable to make the meeting. He sent a note yesterday. So the couple days ago, the finance committee met, a couple other attendees from the board proper. We went through the proposed budget, quite a few questions, very good discussion. really drilled down into some of the numbers just to understand some differences from prior years and also understand more so some of the challenges that we may potentially face. But at this point, the budget that's put in front of you on page 25 of your packet, it was not questioned, but again, debated a lot of the information, and they all seem to be very sensible numbers based on what we know today, based on the revenue we can collect from the various sources, and the expense side, Lyle described very clearly. These are all pretty well drilled down based on actual numbers that we're able to have documented. So we concluded that the budget that was presented to us on page 25 of your packet should be moved to the full board for further discussion, but we recommend its adoption.
Is that the form of a motion?
No, it was more of a form of a discussion, but I can make a motion if you wish. I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented on page 25, 6, and I think 7, of our board packet as presented.
Okay,
I'll
have a-
second that. Chris?
thank you. I would like to, these are different times, trying times, and as we're going forward, things may change. If we have some changes, then what we do is we'll take a new look at our budget here in a month or two, and if we have to do an amended budget at that time, then we just work with that. But I think Lyle's done a good job putting this together, and looks good so far. Any questions or discussion further? Roll call vote, please, Peggy.
Dave,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
John is absent, Paul,
Yes.
Bill is absent, and Lisa.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Alternative energy. Paul, do you have anything that you want to bring up now?
I only have one thing to bring up. We haven't met, but yesterday Don sent us an email about a project called Sugar Maple. And Mike, I really have a question for Joe. And it's a project that crosses from Lewis County to Jefferson County. And I know you've advised us before on what the process is, Joe, but how do IDAs handle a project that crosses county lines? Let's say they make their application to Lewis County. How is that handled with municipalities affected in Jefferson County?
My understanding, Paul, and I'll double check this because it's been a while since I looked at it. My understanding is that Lewis County can take the lead, their IDA can take the lead, but it requires the consent of the taxing jurisdictions in Jefferson County to what they're doing.
Okay.
That's my recollection from the last time I looked at it.
I think this
that's right.
project's a long way off, Joe. I wouldn't invest any time in getting a more definitive answer at this time. I was just trying to, I know we went over it before with the project that crosses into Rodman. So
Right.
That's all I have. Bill had originally tried to set up a alternative energy meeting for after our meetings today, but I don't know what's happening with that. So we have not met since our last meeting.
Okay. Building and grounds, do we have anything there?
I can give just a little bit, Dave. I think we mentioned at our last board meeting, staff has sent out RFPs. They were approved by Building and Grounds to see if we can get a public distribution of the availability of the 14,500 square foot space remaining in the Arsenal Street building.
Thank you.
We do expect to have those RFPs returned within the next few days. We did one tour yesterday for Pyramid Brokerage. Would likely expect others to want to do the same. And we should have those back for board distribution here in the very near future. The feeling by Building and Grounds was that we should move to a public release of the information of the availability of that square footage as soon as possible. As you know, we're responsible for substantial expense maintaining the building. So if there's an opportunity to sell or lease the facility to create some jobs in the community, then that should be our priority. That's the feeling of Building and Grounds, and we think that makes good sense. So we'll see.
My only question would be, Don, is will we be able to, the utilities and the infrastructure of that building, we be able to do leasehold improvements before the Y does their mechanicals and adjustments with their project? Would we be able to separate that type of stuff out before the Y does their construction?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Paul. We've had both the architectural firms, ours and the Y's, meet at least once face-to-face and 3 or 4 times via conference calls to look at that very question. I think the answer at the moment, at least as I understand it, is yes, we can separate this out, because really not entirely sure on how long any of these projects are going to take, particularly given what's going on today. But that was a question asked yesterday by the Pyramid folks, and looking at it initially, the answer is I think we can do it. It may not be entirely easy, but given the preliminary plans of the Y, we have a pretty good idea what they're going to do, and ours is fairly simple compared to their complexity. So I think the answer is yes. Long-winded.
Thanks, Don.
Yes, sir.
Council reports. Jay.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Converse, for calling on me. So my report. We have an Ag Council meeting. The Jefferson County Agricultural Development Council will be meeting next Tuesday. We're still operating off of Zoom, but because of some of the changes, I will have a couple council members coming into the office to participate via our conference room. So starting to try and bring people back together as allowed. They have a very full agenda, a lot of different issues. One of the things, NBC Watertown has contacted us and asked for the council's assistance. NBC Watertown would like to increase their agricultural programming, and so they've asked for our assistance in putting that together. It would be mostly a syndicated show, but what they're talking about doing is trying to find something that we can also inject a little bit of local information into whatever the show is that they decide upon. So we're pretty excited to see our local television, radio, and so on continue to increase their agricultural coverage. So that's good news. We had our first webinar of our Path to 2025 series on June 30th. We had 89 people registered. I think there was like 55, 56 people actually participated. It was in the evening hours on a gorgeous summer afternoon, so I'm not surprised that we didn't get all 89 people that were registered. I have received a tremendous amount of good feedback on it. It was provocative. actually had requests across the state for the video. The video's been watched over 80 times from that. So there's been a lot of positive response to that. Our next webinar in that series, and this will start to happen every month now, the fourth Thursday of the month, now at noontime instead of the hours. We're calling it our Farmers Luncheon Series. Our next webinar will be July 23rd at noon, and we'll be featuring Dr. Travis Maddock. He is the consultant that was hired by Mike Lundy to help with the meat feasibility study, the meat processing feasibility study. Travis will be talking about the future of the livestock industry, what we can expect between now and the year 2025. And one thing, and Ed and I were talking about it before the meeting started, one thing in particular that we'll focus on is small scale meat processing and the absolute need for it that we're seeing here in the North Country. So this webinar will be a little bit different in that it'll be an interview format versus a presentation. So it'll be a conversation between Travis and I, and as questions come up, I'll try to fit those into that conversation. So should be a little bit more interesting than just your standard webinar. Food distribution, unexpectedly, as Don can attest to, Jefferson County called upon our office to assist with these food distribution events that have been happening here in Jefferson County. We have been assisting the American Dairy Association Northeast. We've helped them with 4 events. Our role is to help with logistics. For example, we set up the Jefferson Community College location, what was it, last week, the week before. We also help secure a volunteer workforce. Last week we had, or the last one, whenever it was, we had about 60 people there helping out. These events are huge. I can't tell you the response that we get from people going through these events. There is a real need out there. And sometimes you see a car pull up to the distribution point and you think, what are they doing here? And then you hear their story and you go, didn't think about that. So the need is huge, but it's helping more than just the people that have that need. And this is the part that I've realized through being involved in this. HP Hood, for example, with the 4 events that American Dairy Association has had here in Jefferson County so far, HP Hood is providing the dairy box. Well, they're providing products for the dairy box. They have 10 pounds of product in every one of those dairy boxes. So as of right now, they distributed about 14,000 pounds of their product from the HP Hood plant in Lafarge. So that's helping their manufacturing operation. And in return, that is helping local dairy farms that supply the milk. Today, Channel 7, thank you, Channel 7. I see they're on the webinar here. They're doing an interview with Steve Winkler, who has been involved in helping a food pantry on Long Island secure local products. So Steve has gotten local meat products. He's gotten cheese from Great Lakes Cheese. It's just, there's a lot of local farm products that are going into these food distribution events, and everybody's getting paid for them. It's not just donations, it is, they're being paid. So it's helping our local economy, which is so critical right now. As we know, agriculture is the foundation of our economy, especially in times like this. As I said, meat processing is a huge discussion right now. Farms are scheduling months out to get their livestock through meat processing, especially for the small scale. There's a huge demand. Many of our farms don't have don't have their livestock they had set aside for local food needs, they're out already. Where they had planned prior to the virus, they had planned for that number of livestock to go throughout the year. They've exhausted that supply. Some of the farms are looking to buy livestock from elsewhere that they can then process and sell locally. So the big need is small scale livestock processing, but there's a lot of challenges. And we're going to talk about that on that webinar on July 23rd. So if you're interested in that topic, please tune into that webinar. I won't steal Marshall's thunder because I know he's going to talk about the Support Locally program. I'll just say that we are working on the flagging side of that project, trying to get that up and running. Very excited about Marshall and the team he's been working with have done a fantastic job on the business side of things. I love the posters and stuff. So great job, Marshall. Thank you, sir. I think that's it. I'll shut up and ask if there's any questions. Look, can't hear you, Paul.
I have a question. I read an article about the drought rating is raising in the county or the region.
Yeah, right now, the central part of northern Jefferson County is classified as a moderate drought. Dave Converse and I were actually talking about this a little bit earlier before the meeting started. I would argue that the entire county is probably in that moderate drought. The problem is USGS, their data collection that allows them to classify drought conditions. I do not believe they've changed any of that criteria from the last time we went through this, which I think was 2016. And so with that said, we probably won't see much of the rest of the county classified in a moderate drought unless things get extremely bad, which I don't expect that will happen. But I would expect we're going to be in a moderate drought throughout the county. Dave, do you want to touch on that? You were talking about groundwater resources.
Well, basically, the groundwater resources are really we're not going to see that until September, October, because there's always that lag time between the drought and, you know, the lowering of the groundwater, unless you got really shallow wells. But as of right now, we're not really seeing a major issue.
But that'll start to come into play, like Dave said, a little bit later on in the summer and early fall. So we are seeing reduced yields on hay production. Some farms have been struggling to get a second or third cutting. And some farms have gotten a little bit, but it's not great. So yields are down that way. We are seeing some curling on corn, which is an indication of heat stress. I was hoping that we'll get some moisture this weekend, but right now I'm losing my optimism on that. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. But again, the biggest problem is the way USGS collects data to classify drought here in Jefferson County. It is very difficult for us to have an accurate, this is my opinion, it is very difficult for us to be accurately classified as far as our drought conditions. And if anybody wants to talk to me offline or something, unless people want to know right now, I can talk about that. But otherwise, I'd answer any other questions on the classification system offline. Paul, did you have a follow-up question to that?
No, I was just wondering, I've noticed some of the corn that I drive by looks like there's a lot of stress going on.
Yeah. It definitely, especially north of Black River, that's where the worst conditions are. But even in southern Jefferson County, we're seeing some impacts, yes.
That would be
I'd pass along to everybody for observation as you drive around the countryside. I want you to note how every small patch of ground, open acreage, it may be a 1 acre plot of land, a 5 acre plot of land, any plots of land that had green grass on them will be harvested this year. The hay crop is half of what it needs to be to sustain, the livestock population. So you're going to see fields that haven't been cut in 4 or 5 years are being cut to help build the hay inventory, to handle the livestock population here and all throughout New York State. It's one of those years we haven't seen. So if we don't get rain this weekend, as far as I'm concerned, we'll be in severe drought by Monday, Tuesday.
You'll be collecting lawn clippings.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
You notice,
Jay,
did you notice Dr. Gardner is trying to encourage government officials to come in and mow his lawn? Did you notice that?
Actually, there's nothing left to mow. I think. Beginning to look like the Sahara out there.
Jay, one thing I'd like to see happen, and we haven't heard much about it, but I think as it relates to economic activity and some paradigm changes going on that we as an agency should inform ourselves regarding is what's going on at the Renzi food service. Their multi-million-dollar grant, or not grant, but contract that they procured clearly demonstrates a major paradigm shift in the food and fiber distribution system of the country. And I would love to see Jude or somebody come in and give us a 15-minute presentation of what they're doing right in our backyard, addressing that with that substantial, multi-million-dollar contract. I think we should become aware for our own background knowledge as to what's happening there.
Sure. And thank you, Ed, for bringing that up, and I will do that. But just to give you a quick update, Renzi's has been, and that's where this grant comes in, has been a huge player with these food distribution programs because we're working with American Dairy Association and Renzi's and Glaziers. They're the big 3 players with these food distribution events. Renzi's has been fantastic to work with on these events. They are, number one, they're creating a lot of these food boxes that are given out at the distribution events. There's a dairy box, a produce box, and a meat box. What I just do is, and Renzi's produces a lot of those boxes. Then they bring them to the distribution event, and their staff actually helps us unload. They operate the forklifts. And, it's just a huge, huge effort. Did somebody say something?
That was you, I think.
Okay. So that's where that grant is coming in to a large extent, is helping with this food distribution program. And they're using that money to purchase the products that are then being put in these boxes and sold to the public, or not sold to the public, distributed to the public. And the good part is they're putting at least some local products, such as the HP Hood, it's cottage cheese and yogurt that they're putting in the dairy box. The other thing that is happening on the other side is Great Lakes Cheese is involved in the other food distribution program that's called Nourish New York. That's the state program. I don't think Renzi's is involved with that, but Glaziers is from up north. And they're doing somewhat the same thing in that food distribution box. And Steve Winkler, local farmer, is helping coordinate some of that. And as I said, he's helping. There's a food distribution program through Nourish, New York, that's happening on Long Island. And they got in touch with Steve, and he's helped coordinate local meat products, dairy products, apples, and so on, going into that, which is going downstate. So Jefferson County is playing a huge role in these food distribution programs across the state. And I don't think people realize how big it is. It's helping a lot of people that need help, but it's also helping our local economy. And right now we need every dollar we can coming into that economic engine to get things moving again.
Well, but I think the other thing that's noteworthy that I'd love to hear Jude or somebody expand upon a little bit is the fact that they are moving toward home delivery.
Right.
You know, it was institutional kind of customer base. They are reaching out and entering into the retail side of it. You know, I can pick up the phone, set up an account with my card with Renzi's, and most of what I get at the supermarket, I could have Renzi delivered to my doorstep right now.
Yeah, and I will, Ed. I'll definitely see if we can get somebody from Renzi's to talk to us about that. But I'll point out that they're not the only ones. Renzi's, we had another, it's the folks who do the fruit business. They do the fruit baskets and so on. I can't remember the name of the company. But anyways, they set up when the virus hit and all of the challenges of getting local, getting food from the grocery stores happened. They also set up a local food distribution program where you could order online, edible arrangements. That's the name of it, edible arrangements. And they did the same thing. So Renzi's, edible arrangements, and I believe there was a couple others. So we're seeing that resurgence, Ed, which is great. And a lot of times it's helping local farms get their products out there too. So a lot of good things happen. I will address your request, Ed. I'll make sure that we get that. Thank you.
If I may, Ed, just a quick note too, which we will talk more about on the IDA side of things, but we're also assisting Renzi and other companies in the Watertown City Park to expand. And that's an important aspect of what Renzi's are trying to do. And Dave Zembeck has been working hard on that along with Don Rutherford. So you'll hear more about that on the IDA side of things this morning.
One last note real quick, Dave, Chairman Converse, and then I'll stop. Also, we're seeing interest from local retail locations, and I won't name any names, but we just assisted a local retailer who wants to carry as many local food products as they possibly can. Our assistance was very simple. We just provided a list of some of the local products and the sources for those products. But yeah, we're seeing a lot more of that and trying to help as best we can when we get those requests. So
Thanks, Jay. Manufacturing, Dave? Dave, I think you're muted.
I unmuted him there.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, just a couple things. So we worked with the chambers in the county and the county itself. The county had a supply of hand sanitizer, mask, and such that we were distributing. So last week we distributed, we've had 2 distributions now. Last week was the second one down at the JB Wise lot. Both times we distributed probably 300 or so businesses that came by and collected, gallon containers and small spritzer bottles of hand sanitizer solution, as well as masks they could use. So that worked out pretty well. Good response to that. We resumed our safety training in June, going mostly to virtual training. We had 4 online classes and 1 on-site at a location. Had about 77, almost 80 people attend those, so that's a good response. With the virtual classes, we've actually cut the class time down just because it's harder to engage people over a 4-hour session. So we've kind of really condensed it down so we keep it a little bit more effective and keep it down to a 2-hour session. And we're working now on getting some word out. The state is starting a series of webinars on export opportunities for businesses to various countries. So we're going to get that out to the manufacturers so they can be aware of that. And then beyond just manufacturing, the county did just this last month appoint the members of the CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Committee, to start guiding that process. So hopefully we'll get that process going in the next couple of months. The next step now is to get an RFP out for a consultant and start that process and then get underway with the actual planning. So it's sort of opportune coming out of this COVID thing that we're starting with a new 5-year plan for the county looking forward. So
Thanks.
That's it.
Any questions for Dave? Marshall.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go kind of quick here. As Jay mentioned, our Support Locally campaign has been kicked off, and you're going to be seeing a lot of these. Oh, here, hold on. Sorry about this. I don't know why that's happening. The flyers, I'm trying to show you the flyer here. Okay, well, I guess we're going to, I guess that's not going to work for that one here.
Marshall, you got one there you can just hold up?
Yes, I do. I guess I could do it the easy way. Right here. I personally delivered them to a lot of businesses around downtown. They're in all of the chambers now, and you're going to start seeing them at every local business, hopefully, in their front window. People are so psyched to see them too. That's one of the things that, I've mentioned stores like along Factory Street, they kind of try to compete with some chain businesses. And they were so psyched to see them. So I've been really excited about that. Also going to show you, if I can get this to work this time, the video that's been a long time coming. As you know, we had a little bit of a delay on getting approval for the border crossing section. And we also made some edits on the fishing and some other things. And I'm going to show that one to you here. Screen.
While he's pulling out, I'll also add that we, during the hand sanitizer distribution, we included those posters with the businesses.
So here we go.
Jefferson County, New York is the ideal place to live and play. Grow your business with our trained workforce and top-rated educational opportunities. Enjoy faster time to market with our proximity to the major population centers of the northeastern U.S. and Canada, including the nation's most state-of-the-art border crossing. Get running faster with shovel-ready sites, tourism with 4 seasons of fun, and $250 million in recreational spending. Do business and live well in Jefferson County, New York.
All right. Added the map there, a couple other little things. So we are we're very excited about that. To go back a little bit on what Jay was mentioning regarding the webinars, we did have our hospitality and tourism webinar with Julia Papura. We had a series of 2. They went very well. We had, they just went very well. We had great feedback, good attendance. They were very good and well done programming. And also one of the things that Jay and I have kind of talked about, that's kind of like goes along the lines with the webinars and these Zoom meetings and everything, which I think is really kind of cool. This is sort of Jay's kind of idea about us doing like a taped interview series, and we could do those across a number of different spectrums. Of course, Jay's all about agriculture, so we're sort of started it with that. But where we're going to tape an interview with someone across, in their specific area of expertise and things that are working, things that maybe, you know, some things that that didn't work. But as far as kind of getting their business going and, you know, functioning in this new normal, so to speak. And then we can tape them and put them on our website. And so, you know, any business that's functioning in that space can sort of check it out. As I did, you know, going back to the posters, I can't, you know, since that wasn't working, I got a little flustered there. But, you know, as we've talked about, this can have a couple of different applications. But we are going to be looking for, you know, as you start to see more stores, you know, last weekend I saw them all over Cape Vincent, for instance, and I was that was wonderful to see. And we're going to be looking for a little bit of earned media. There's a news release going out next week, and you know, I'm going to be leaning on our friends at the Times and the Channel 7 to you know, provide us with a little bit of earned media and have some good content for them. And I'm also going to, as Jay mentioned, I'm going to be getting making sure that the retailer that Jay had mentioned earlier gets a sign ASAP that's putting out all those local products if he hasn't received one yet. But you know, our local outreach regarding the COVID resources, that's kind of coming to a close. We did have a grant that we're doing through Drum Country and National Grid, and that's been great. And that is about it. If anybody has any questions.
Marge, could we offer to make some of those posters available to board members if they would like to participate in the local distribution effort, since many of them have a number of contacts locally? It might be helpful as representing the organization to hand those out to some folks in their neighborhood.
Absolutely, no problem. That I have them
Great
here.
idea.
I have them here, and I can also get them to you, no problem. You know, just we're all over the county, all of us, and we can get them to you, whether you pick them up or we can drop them off too. So
I'm kind of hard to reach.
You got the first one.
No, I know. All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Unfinished business.
None, Dave.
Don, you got anything else? Nothing?
No.
No business? Council?
Nothing.
Okay. Board members, anyone?
No.
With that, can I have a motion to adjourn the LDC board meeting?
So moved.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Was that, did someone have something? These are fun, aren't they? So we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 All right, we stand adjourned. With that, I will call to order the July meeting for the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency.
See everybody
And I
later.
would open the floor.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg. Let's see if I can get my packet up here. I'll open it up to the floor if anybody wants to address the board or speak with us. None, okay.
I'd like to make a few comments. Can you hear me?
What's that again?
This is Ed Valentine. I was hoping to make a few comments regarding the
Hi, Ed.
JCIDA.
Sure, go ahead, Ed.
I saw on the agenda previously it had some discussion of the Lundy projects in the industrial park, and I wanted to ask that the board at least still have a conversation about that. And my understanding is that he will not be pursuing those projects anymore. And if that is the case, I would like to ask the board to disapprove the plans that were submitted. Understanding is the town larger projects than were originally presented to the JCIDA board. And at this point, it doesn't look like the covenants or town code has been followed. So I would like to still follow up and make sure those plans are discussed and disapproved if possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Anyone else? Okay, we have the minutes from our last meeting in June. Is there any additions and or corrections?
No. I'll make a motion to accept as presented, please.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report, Rob.
Okay, page 33 of your packet. Somebody eating, or the heck is that? Sounds like potato chips. Page 33 of our packet. We break even on the revenue side is just a little over 78,000 a month. We're achieving a right around 81,000 a month, and that's a little slanted because of some of the earlier large receivables that we've already booked. Looking at what we should receive and book by the end of the year, and again, assuming we can close the one pilot that's been induced in this particular calendar year, we should end up somewhere between 50,000 to as much as maybe 125,000 below the projected budget. There's a very small outside chance we could achieve our projected budget, but I mean, Lyle can disagree with me, but I think it's a very small chance.
I agree with you.
Okay. So I look at somewhere between 50 and 125 short on the expected revenue from budget. On the operational expense side, it's unfortunately an opposite story to where we are in the LDC. We had some extraordinary expenses this year, 146 Arsenal predominantly, and also some bad debt. Those have amounted to about $250,000 to $300,000 of largely unbudgeted expenses. Our break even would be 83,000 a month. Expenses per month, we're achieving about 112,000 per month. Our end of the year projection for operational expenses are between 1.175 million and 1.215 million. So knowing that we're short on the revenue side above, will probably be between $275,000 and $400,000 loss relative to what was budgeted, which is, I guess, the barometer we have to look at. Right now, we're at 279 deficit income over expense. So we're kind of in that same band we're talking about, but on the low side. I have a feeling it'll just it'll somewhat balance itself out because we are doing everything we can to reduce operational expense at 146 Arsenal, and thank you to staff and especially Don on doing that. And we can't control the revenue side. It comes in as quickly as it can get closed. So that's page 33 of our packet. Page 35 of our packet, our balance sheet. Quick assets are down 23,000 from prior month. Receivables are down about 40,000 from prior month, and total assets are down about 65,000 from prior month. Total liabilities, total current liabilities are up about 8,500 from prior months. And on page 36 of your packet, total capital is down about 72,000. Pages 40, 41 show the major loans we have. 42 is and 42, 43, and 44 are just showing the loans on a matrix basis. They are all current. One is noted as paid off, and several are on a moratorium. And I don't think there's been any change to this, Lyle.
No change.
Okay.
Correct.
So we're all in good standing at this particular point, and that is the treasurer's report. I would make a motion to accept it as presented.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On page 46 of the packet, there's a past due invoice to ARC Fent. I believe that's the FedEx structure in the park. What is
that? That's oh.
I assume that was another discussion point. I didn't include that in the treasurer's report. I was going to ask what these were after this.
Well, the county tax on the FedEx building, which is owned by ARC, whatever that, I can't remember, something global. I believe they have an escrow agent that's supposed to pay this, and I've been sending them past due notices, adding the late charges, and I get no response. Peggy finally got me the name of a guy that is responding to her correspondence who's in the tax department. And I talked with him, sent him copies of this, sent him copies of the pilot, which he didn't have. So hopefully we're going to get that one resolved. Now the other one is Convergys. It's the prorated tax from up to the point where they left the building. They've received this. This is the city tax. Indicated, and I don't remember the lady's name. She, I believe, has been in contact with Don, and was going to look into this, and nothing has happened, frankly. So I don't know. It's
Yeah, I'm going to take that ball and push it in my court. We have had ongoing conversations with the Convergys folks. They've been pretty responsive at this point, but I don't know what's going on with this particular thing. And we'll find out here in the next week or so to see if we can follow up, get some information to you.
So does that city tax, until the time they're become a liability to the agency to pay?
This was the portion of the city tax prorated up until the first point when they vacated the building. The building is still in row section 8. It's still tax exempt.
Are you asking, Paul, if that's our responsibility ultimately?
Will it fall to being the agency's responsibility to make that payment if we can't come to terms with Convergys?
I think the answer is no, but Joe, you want to comment on that? I don't believe, based on the agreements, that would be our responsibility.
Okay.
I think you're right, Don. I haven't looked at the agreements recently, but that's my recollection as well.
I'd have to check, Paul. I don't want to, get too far afield there, but I don't think so.
Very good. That was my only question in the treasurer's report.
Any other questions? Let me back up. Did we get a motion in a second?
I made a motion. I don't think I heard a second.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right. On the treasurer's report, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Our next year's budget. Rob?
Okay, I guess same, general background. We really heavily drilled down into the numbers. We went through a pretty good allocation of where the revenue side would come from the pilot sales leaseback, which is clearly the biggest amount of collection, and also the biggest amount of uncertainty. So Lyle went through that pretty thoroughly. There's only about 60,000 of that number that's really unallocated, that wasn't assigned to a particular project, and we debated it and didn't determine that to be a significant portion to remove or adjust or whatever. So the revenue side seemed to hold very well. All the other numbers were well tested and well understood, guaranteed numbers basically. On the expense side, we went through all of the information there. Again, we probed the bad debt. Lyle wrote a separate document indicating where the bad debt numbers that we would make allowance for come from. He tested them. He determined that these would be more than enough reserve for what could be in front of us. We hope again that these are not used, but again, we have to. And the 146 Arsenal, the notation there is that is only 6 months worth of expense. We should be at a closing level before 6 months into our next fiscal year, which would be April, I think, end of April. So if we somehow own the building beyond 6 months, the expenses will go up. They're not budgeted, and we also have some contingency plans there with the proposed buyer to reduce those expenses and remove them from our rolls. So we tested the expense side and found them to be quite adequate. And after thorough discussion, determined that the budget as presented, the Finance Committee recommended to present to the full board for further discussion, debate, or questions.
Any questions with regards to the proposed budget?
Dave, let me just interject one quick comment. Just to underscore, I am very concerned about the income level of the agency going forward. We're going to have to do everything in our power to improve that income stream. And obviously our ability to do that is limited in most cases to how projects are processed. And the COVID thing has made it ever more difficult to try to get these projects underway. But that's not the entire issue. We're going to have to make these things move along quickly if we're going to improve that income stream. And in my opinion, we certainly must do that.
Thanks, Don. I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented. I don't think I actually did that.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please, Peggy.
Dave,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
John is absent, Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Budget carries. Thank you. 146 Arsenal. John, do you have more on that, or?
I think we pretty well covered it, Dave. The RFPs are on the street. We have had one tour of a real estate company, brokerage firm to date. I expect at least another one of those, if not more. We should get RFPs back here in the near future, and we're going to do our best to get it on the market per the guidance of Building and Grounds Committee. So that's basically it.
All right.
Dave, Mr. Chairman, I'll just add that the applications as you know, were submitted for the Defense Community Infrastructure Program for the Y project. They're right now in the period of reviewing those applications. So sometime between now and September 15th, they'll be contacting finalists, but we'll know by September 15th whether we've gotten that funding or not.
Keep your fingers crossed. That'd be good. Yeah.
David, a question I have on the way they evaluate those. Is there a scoring system as you went down through the application process?
They didn't show a scoring system in terms of points assigned to each particular factor, but they listed a number of, but the factors they were considering, which you would have seen addressed in the drafts I sent you, were, how does, the fact that the project would, could benefit, about half of the military population, the fact that it'd be available to military population, quality of life. They also look at things like what the community and the state do to support licensure reciprocity. But that's where you have military spouses coming with various certifications, and getting New York to recognize those, or what we do to improve spouse employment. So we actually contributed quite a bit there in terms of our work with FDR-LO, Advocate Drum, on getting some of those things implemented at the state level to make that easier. So we were able to kind of summarize that to our credit. And we're also able to summarize what we've been doing as an agency, working with our local employers in Fort Drum to make those connections between the transitioning soldiers and military spouses. So those are things they look at. They look at the overall project's impact on quality of life. They look at how does the project fit into the local, state, and regional plans, which it does. When you look at the downtown initiative, revitalization initiative, our own SEDS plans emphasizing the need for these type of projects in the downtown area. So they have a number of factors to look at, but they don't particularly allocate points to the building. The other thing is that if you're in rural areas, are required to do a 50% match. Non-rural areas can ask for a waiver. We did not ask for a waiver, so for an $18.1 million project because we were able to include some of the costs that the Y has already incurred. So they're asking for $9 million and showing $9.1 million local match. So I think that plays to our benefit that we're a rural area, but still coming to the table, not asking for a waiver on that. So, I mean, as you read it, it reads very well. What we don't know is what else is being submitted. And the fact that the project is shovel ready, that's another big thing they look at, is how shovel ready, how quickly can it be built. So it's a very strong application. I think what we don't know is what other strong applications might be submitted to the program across the country. So.
Well, I would think that where you're matching the 9 million with another 9 million, hopefully it'll put you over the top. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Very good. We have resolution number 0709 2020.01. It's a resolution for authorizing a modification to the revolving loan to RBM Manufacturing Corporation. This is basically, they're requesting an extension of interest-only payments for another 6 months to avoid cash flow problem during the COVID-19 period. And they're waiting to sell some franchises. Questions with regards to this?
Rob, I also a question. Is this in addition to the extensions we've already granted everyone if they requested it? So this is an additional 6 months on top of, well, I can't remember if we approved 3 or 6. Excuse me, I don't remember what we approved before. So is this additional or only?
The original agreement called for 6 months interest only, Rob.
Okay.
This is an extension of that original.
Okay, so they've already applied for the 6 months, which we've previously resolved, and this is an additional 6.
This is an additional 6. They did not apply for the moratorium.
Well, then a stupid question is, don't they just automatically get 6 months?
Not unless they apply for it.
Okay.
They have to apply, right?
Why wouldn't they have applied for the moratorium then? I'm just wondering, why are we treating this one job differently than everyone else if we've already approved? I'm fine with it either way. Don't get me wrong. It's a process thing.
Well, it's what they applied for, and that's what we've gone with.
Okay. All right. I mean, either way, it meets the principal intention of what we had already approved, but just it seems odd that they wouldn't have just applied for moratorium.
Well, I think because their original agreement, the interest was still in effect. So I think given where they're at, because this one expires and is picking up now for the next 6 months. So I think probably they may not have requested a moratorium.
I'm perfectly behind acceptance of this. I was just kind of curious why this was being treated differently than our blanket moratorium approvals. Okay, I'm comfortable. It's the same intention. It doesn't matter how we get there.
Is that a motion?
I will accept it as presented because it gets us to where we need to be.
Yes. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Now I have a quick question back to Lyle. As I recall, when this loan was initially approved, Lyle had stated that due to the principles involved in it, that there'd be very little, if zero, chance of default coming back to us having to pull it out of our bad debt allowance. You're still confident with that, Lyle, that there's enough personal assets involved with the principals that should this go south, we aren't going to have to cover this out of bad allowance debt?
Very confident, Ed, without a doubt.
All right. Okay. All right. No problem.
Yeah, I would add, I mean, they, as you know, as we reported, they did, sell 2 new recent franchises. I think you all saw the magazine article I sent from the Entrepreneurship magazine. They do have some other prospects right now. A couple of them, as they come through, they'll be great. Be set off. But it's just with the COVID thing, those other prospects right now are kind of holding off for various reasons, obviously. So
fair enough.
A suggestion I would make.
I think you give this company a year or two, I think you're going to see some impressive growth in this company over the next couple of years.
I think they're missing an opportunity. And the opportunity they're missing is why are they just restricting this to motor or wheel vehicles? You know, I can picture that same concept out here on a boat up and down the waterways, whether it's the East Shore, you know, even the Hudson River or the St. Lawrence River. It's like, my God, you talk about advertising. There you go.
We'll suggest that.
That'll
They
have to
should
be
think
called,
about it.
that'll have to be called surfboard instead of running board.
There you go. Well, I think it's a window they're missing.
There you go, Ed.
If I were going to invest in one, I'd modify it for the right boat, and I'd be up and down the river with it.
I think we're going to recommend you're the main investor for paddleboard machines.
There you go.
All right, on the resolution, roll call vote, Peggy, please.
Dave,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
John is absent, Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and Lisa has left the meeting, so she's now absent.
Resolution carries. We have a Convergys property maintenance agreement with a WIC LDC. And I'd entertain a motion in a second for further discussion.
I'll move it.
Second. Okay. Any questions or on this?
Mr. Chairman, I probably should have updated the title a little bit. Many people still refer this as the Convergys property. It's actually 146 Arsenal Street going forward. But for the purpose of this discussion, we left it as pretty much the same as it was prior to this. I have to tell you that the WIC LDC led by Billy has done a superb job of maintenance of the facility, and he is aware that we're not sure exactly how long this contract is going to be in effect, because we simply don't know what the future is going to be with respect to the Y and our portion of the building. So there is some flexibility here. They understand that, and this is simply a continuation of what's worked very well for us in the past.
Anything else? Roll call vote, please, Peggy.
Dave,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
John is absent, Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa's absent.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. So I know that Mr. Valentine brought up the Lundy project. We have had, basically Mr. Lundy has pulled this project, and with that, we have not received any further information that would allow our board to do seeker or anything. So I believe at this time, and Counselor, you chime in, I think that it's a moot point and we really don't do anything one way or the other on this. Is that correct, Joe?
I would agree, Dave. If we were going to take any action on this, we would have to complete seeker first. We don't have any, we do not have an EAF submitted. So, and if he has withdrawn his plans, I agree with you. There's no reason to take action at all.
Can our action at least be to agree to withdraw the plans as a board?
What was that, Rob?
I was going to say, can our action be at least as a board to agree the plans are withdrawn? So we don't fall into that 90-day do nothing and then it's approved? We have plans in front of us, and if we do nothing for 90 days, they're automatically approved.
Do we have anything in writing from Mr. Lundy withdrawing the plans, Don?
No, Joe, nothing in writing at this point.
I would caution on the side of let's just withdraw the plans as a board.
Well, we can't withdraw the plans. I mean, if he
we can reject them.
Well, you can reject him, but you can't even take that action without completing seeker. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's no seeker EAF submitted, the 90 days doesn't start running because that's part of the application.
As long as that's part of the loophole that's created here, because I'm just concerned about the 90-day do nothing and.
Well, it's standard, legal principles, Rob, that if we don't have a completed application and seeker is part of the application, then nothing starts running on us.
Perfect. I accept that. Not excuse. I accept that reason. Excuse me.
Okay. I mean, it would not be a bad idea to ask him to put something in writing, but I don't know that it's absolutely necessary.
Well, my concern was I think I sent you and Don an email earlier this month asking if his application would be, what he submitted would be considered having supplied us with enough information to begin the review process. I just want to make sure, like Rob, that we don't get into a position where this is defaulted into an approval. I think so. 90 days doesn't get us to the next meeting anyhow. So why don't we take the position that Don asked Mike for an official letter that he's withdrawn the projects. If not, we'll take up denial of the projects at our August meeting.
I think we can also just make note in our minutes that we consider the application complete and we're taking no action as a result of it.
Incomplete.
You mean incomplete?
Incomplete. Sorry, I did say complete, didn't I? Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Rob. We can consider the application incomplete for failure to supply the appropriate EAF.
Yeah. This way,
We knew what you meant,
this
Rob.
way you've got the legal principle behind you that it's incomplete.
We knew what you meant.
I can support that. I think that's a good idea. I support it.
Okay.
This is Ed Valentine. I had a quick question. I wanted to confirm whether the prints that he did submit, is it a 16,000 square foot building or is it a 22,000 square foot building that the town approved? Which copy do you have?
I can't answer that question, Ed, because frankly, last week when Mike first indicated he was withdrawing his plans, I haven't pursued it any farther. As far as I was concerned, the project no longer existed. It still had pieces missing, and as the board just identified, they wouldn't approve it without those missing pieces anyway, so I just stopped. So unfortunately, can't answer the question. I will check though if you want and make sure.
Well, does anybody have a copy of plans
Yeah,
in front of them?
I'm just trying to
1,000 square
look.
feet?
I'm just trying to look at what the plans say. Hard to read. They're quite small.
It probably doesn't say. You have to calculate it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's right. I haven't done it.
Very small. The one that was the maintenance building was 10,000 square feet. It was actually labeled as such. This one doesn't appear to be labeled very. Boy, it's really impossible to read the dimension. I can't blow it up either.
Yeah, that's been the problem. I'd have to check, Ed, rather than spend a lot of time.
We can
Yeah, Ed,
discuss it
if
the
I
next
were to,
meeting.
if I were to interpret what I believe I can read, it looks like it's 140 by 100. So that would be more like the 16,000 you're talking about. It might be like 120 by 140. So it's very hard to read the dimensions. But we have an incomplete application, as you just heard, so we may not even have the right plans.
Okay. I had another quick question also. I'm not sure how up to date everybody is, but I raised some concerns with the town of Watertown on June 1st with a letter and also spoke to the zoning officer about a parking issue at the Penske lot where they're overflowing and parking in front of the building because they've outgrown the site. Then I stopped in again and spoke with Payne and Mr. Ross. I think it was June 13th. And at that point, neither one of them had spoken with Penske. And then I stopped in again on July 3rd and brought them more pictures and asked if either one of them had spoke, and they said no, but they would. And then at Monday's planning board meeting on July 6th, I brought more pictures to the planning board, and it was very egregious parking out front, and I have a lot of photos of parking out front more often than not, and asked Pam if there had been follow-up, and she did not know. So at this point, it's been, 40 days, and the town hasn't taken any action. I'm not sure what the next step is. I just want to make you guys aware of it, that I'm continuing to try and enforce that. At some point, I might ask the JCIDA to see if they have any concern with the appearance in the park, the prestigious park, and maybe they could ask the town also to enforce their site plan. That's all. I just wanted to give you a quick update. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Counselor, do you have anything else?
No, nothing else, Dave.
Did we, David, excuse
Thank
me,
you.
did we need a motion? Was there not action required to deem the application
I
incomplete?
don't think that we're in a position to take any formal votes on it.
Okay.
Even to deem the application incomplete?
We could do that. You could adopt a motion to deem it incomplete if you felt necessary to do that.
Well, I'll move that we deem the two applications on Lot 10 and Lot 2B, I believe it was, incomplete for the failure to submit the appropriate environmental assessment forms.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Paul's motion carries.
Hey, Dave, before we go to counselor, can we talk about the park committee we formed real quick,
Sure.
briefly, that, we need to continue on while we had some meetings after Mr. Lundy submitted those plans. I think we need to make sure we continue the outreach to the park on several issues and just encouraging us not to let it fall to the wayside, that we need to continue on.
I believe was the agreement from that, ad hoc committee that we put together to continue working on this and try to, for the betterment of the park and the whole community, that's for sure.
Well, I think it is, and I find Joe's legal advice somewhat enlightening, because we do have a problem with the covenants in the park, and I just want to make sure I understand the legal language in this. And we can't do away with the covenants. Is that right, Joe?
That's
as moving forward, as we try and fix this issue, we can't do away with the covenants. The participants in the park can take charge in making changes to the covenants, and they can do that by a 2/3 majority vote. Is that right?
No, not until the 30 years expires. There's a 30-year period on the covenants, and during that 30-year period, it would require unanimous consent of all the property owners to either amend or revoke the covenants. At the end of the 30 years, then it reverts to a 2/3. I think it's 2/3, but it's less than unanimous, that can either continue the covenants, amend the covenants, or revoke them. And the 30 years, I believe, doesn't run for another 10 years or so.
And that's
Yeah, they were filed in 2001, as I recall.
That's in the new section of the park. In
Right.
the old section of the park, there's a little different route to amend the covenant.
That's correct. You're right, Paul. But I think we've been dealing principally with the issues in the new section of the park.
Yes.
Well, I think knowing that certainly puts much more emphasis on Paul's group to bring the participants together. They've got to solve it. They've got to solve it. We'll be a partner. We have to be a partner in it, but we've got to solve this amongst the landowners themselves.
Well,
so
working with the town as well.
Town of Watertown as well, but there's also what's this county's position as it relates to taking a position to enforcing the covenants on behalf of the landowners. But that's a discussion that has to be had at some time too. What is our role in it as one, the agency that created the covenants, and two, we're still a landowner in the new park also. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, I can see where it's going to be a meaty issue.
Okay. Don, do you have anything else?
No, just maybe one quick comment. The COVID thing has created some interesting dynamics going on in the local community, and we are not out of the woods yet. We're seeing the impacts of this mess manifest themselves in a variety of different ways. The agency is doing its best to try to deal with some of these things. So I would ask the board members to look around their communities and see what impacts are being felt by our local business community, particularly employers, and make sure that we're doing all we can to assist them. We're trying our best to identify issues and problems and work toward solutions, but it's a tough go. Nothing like I've ever experienced in my my career. So we're hanging in there.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll just add too that we, as Don alluded to in the LDC meeting, we are proceeding with, we've got a proposal working on getting things lined up for the rail, movement of the rail corridor down there in the city center industrial park. And, depending on how quickly we get the legal agreements through and such, we hopefully may get work started down there by early August. We were originally shooting for late July. I'm not sure if that's still on board, Joe, because we were waiting for proposals from the consultant, from the contractor that finally got to us. So
they, from the legal perspective, I'm still waiting for the title work to be updated.
Okay.
The abstractors are way behind right now. And as soon as we get the updated title on the city parcel and the IDA parcel, we should be able to get all the deeds prepared and executed and exchanged and filed. And once we do that, then I think you can pull the trigger on SK to start working.
Perfect.
Good. Anything else for the IDA meeting?
yeah, I have something. I sent an email out. It has to do with the park committee again, that I'd move we enter executive session to have a brief discussion about the acquisition of real property. And I would respectfully request a second. I don't expect it to be long. And
I'll second it.
for staff and council to remain in the session.
On the motion for executive session, roll call vote, please.
Dave,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
John is absent, Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and Lisa's absent.
Up to you, Marshall.
Okay, at this time, we're in executive session.
Did Marshall affirm everyone's parked right yet? He's on mute.
Yeah.
Can't hear him.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I just want to confirm, Mr. McAuliffe is not our attorney or anything, right?
Right.
Okay. So as it stands, I'm going to send Mr. Fox to the waiting room. And it looks like we are all set.
What about Mr. Valentine?
Valentine's still on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
And do we record this part?
I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause the recording. We should be good.
Okay.
I see.
So with that, is there anything else for the JCIDA meeting this morning?
No. Make a
And then-
motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you. And don't go away.
Big discussion, CFDC.
Jefferson County Civic Facility Development Corporation. I call to order our Zoom board meeting of July. We have our minutes from June. Is there any additions and or corrections?
I'll move to accept as presented.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Treasurer's report.
No change since January. We have 14,000 some odd dollars in
4,000.
I
4,000.
was on page 6. Yeah, we have 4,000 of net income. Sorry, I was on page 6.
Yep.
I skipped
Okay.
that. We have 14,000 in our checking account. We've collected 4,000 to date. You're correct. So that was page 5 and 6. There's been no change in anything since January, and that is the treasurer's report. I would make a motion to accept this brief report as presented.
I'll second it.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Budget.
Simple. We have a as guaranteed as you can be, 4,000 regular income. We have $375 of potential expenses for filing taxes, and that leaves us a net income for this agency of $3,625. So we, in the finance committee, after hours and hours of debate, we said we would move this to the full board for acceptance, and I would make a motion to accept the budget as presented on page 14 of your packet. Sorry, I think it's 14. I'm not sure. Whatever page. Can't be 14.
Oh.
Whatever page it's on.
7.
Okay, mine said 14. I must have printed the wrong one.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, keeping in with everything else, roll call vote, please, Peggy.
Dave,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
John's absent, Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa's absent.
All right, motion carries. Don, anything else you want to discuss here?
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, would be a question for all board meetings for August. What is the board's pleasure if we get guidance from the governor, another executive order that clears the way for in-person meetings? Do we hold an in-person meeting? Do we offer an option of Zoom and in-person? Do we simply go back to the Zoom? Do we suspend August activities? What would be the guidance from the board?
I'd like to see, you know, if we can, you know, the RIF camp would be nice. We could, if it was nice out, we could social distance
Do an
outdoors
outdoor.
there.
Sure.
I could look into that.
Yeah, and we.
You know, we have a new executive director of the Thousand Island Bridge Authority, and we have been talking among staff about convening something of a meeting with them for the purpose of discussing mutual activities, and perhaps this would be an opportunity to introduce ourselves and to meet some of the players from TIBA, talk about the new entrance to the country and border openings and all. There are a lot of topics that this might lend itself to if we could arrange it. And I'm not sure we can, given construction, but is that something the board would be interested in doing?
Sure.
Yes.
You providing fishing poles?
Yeah.
Executive director.
Tim Strock. He's been the
Local?
deputy director for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Good guy.
I'd be curious in his overview of our new entrance point to just briefly cover that budget. You know, what was the anticipated cost of that whole project and how it's gone crazy since then. You know, the overrides down there are just phenomenal from what I understand.
Indeed. Well, if I don't hear any objection, Mr. Chairman, what I'll try to do is work with staff here, set up a meeting up there for August, and consider a major portion of the program being, some input from TIBA. So,
I like that idea.
okay.
Very good. Anything else, anyone? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, we stand adjourned.
Bill, are
Thank
we
you.
around?
Bill, are we going to continue? Do you want to call back? You going to do anything there?